Let me welcome on stage Professor Sreekumar K, the moderator for this session, who's the Professor and Deputy Director, School of Commerce with Jain University. Hearty welcome, sir. Joining him on stage as our first panelist is an expert member, State Planning Board, who is also a senior fellow at the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library, New Delhi. Presenting to you Dr. K. Ravi Raman. Welcome, sir. Dr. K. Ravi Raman. Joining them on stage, Sri Joy Elamon, currently a member of the KILA State Disaster Management Authority, and he's been the Director General of KILA for the last 7 years as well. On stage next, Mr. Venkitraman Anand, Corporate Director with Business Sherpa, a seasoned leader with over 4 decades of experience in CXO level management roles. He's also been the President of the Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Joining them, Tina Muthoot. She's a chartered accountant, a professional in finance with over 17 years of experience. She's a 4th generation entrepreneur. And she's also the Executive Director of Muthoot Capital Services Limited, where she oversees the Vehicle Finance Division of Muthoot Papachan Group. Joining them on stage is Mr. Kaushik Mahadevan, co-founder of 4C Technologies. He's a professional with over 2 decades of experience in ESG, business and technology consulting. Mr. Kaushik Mahadevan. We are expecting him to join any moment, sir. We would request you to begin the session with your opening remarks, if that's possible. Professor Sreekumar, if you can get started, that'd be nice. Thank you.
Good afternoon, gentle ladies and noblemen, boys and girls. Before the start of this session, I'll just try to give you a sense of context and organizing this panel discussion at the Summit of Future, Kerala, organized by Jain deemed to be University. In the last 3 decades, probably the United Nations' most momentous collaboration between 190 plus nations could be the agreement to come up with the Sustainable Development Goals, popularly known as SDGs. There are 17 goals, and the countries across the globe agreed to face the challenges of humanity together. In this context, the Sustainable Development Goals were wholeheartedly adopted by all the countries across the world, including India. And our Summit of Future for Kerala, so Kerala is no exception. According to our dear panelist, Dr. Ravi Raman, he calls this as a miracle state. So we would like to explore how the state of Kerala is progressing in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals. So what is the plan for the state from the view of the regulator? So Dr. Ravi Raman is a part of the State Planning Board, being the member, and he is very active in formulating the policies for the state. We also have another member from the government. He is the member of the Kerala's Disaster Management Agency, who was the Director General of Kerala Institute of Local Administration, which was the implementation body for this sustainable development goals in our country. Currently, he is the member of the Kerala State Disaster Management Agency. So we have two members from the government. One of the important verticals of implementing this sustainable development goals. The other vertical, the pillar, is business. So we have three of them representing the business and their role in implementing the sustainable development goals. So we will start with the government. We first listen to the think tank, Kerala State Planning Board, which is the Niti Aayog equivalent of the state, who is instrumental in planning the Viksit Kerala proposals. Then we'll listen to Dr. Joy, who represents the government itself on the achievement of, and the implementation and achievement of the sustainable development goals so far. After that, we listen to the representatives of the business, Ms. Tina Muthoot and Mr. Venkitraman Anand and Mr. Kaushik Mahadevan. Okay, over to our dear Dr. Ravi for opening up the panel discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Sreekumar. I am really thankful to the authorities of the Jain University for inviting us for this discussion. So thanks again. Well, I mean, basically the Kerala's, vision development, or Vikasit Kerala, or sometimes known as Nava Kerala, that's by and large shaped by two ideological streams. One ideological stream that shapes this Kerala future development is inclusive development strategy. And the other one, as you have rightly pointed out, is the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda. So basically, at the moment, when I say Vikasit Kerala or Nava Kerala, obviously this would also invokes, or this brings us to the mind that Vikasit Bharat as well, because Vikasit Bharat is something which is popularized by our Prime Minister. But of course, these are two different things, which I will explain if time permits. But at the moment, let me say that the Kerala economy has been passing through what I would call an economic miracle. Kerala has already achieved the status of a miracle state. I make an argument like this specifically because the average per capita income in Kerala at the moment is 50 to 60% higher than the national average. So if you look at the 60s and 70s, in fact, it was much less, 20% less than the national average. But now you find that it is much higher, 50 to 60% higher than the national average. So there is a shift, a dynamic shift that has occurred in the Kerala's economic landscape. What I am trying to say is that this is driven by 2-3 factors. One is, as I told you, the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda. If you take any of the indices coming under this SDG goals, you will find that Kerala is ranked at the top. Take any of this, zero hunger, gender equality, or clean water, or in any of those good quality education, better health, any of these indicators you take, part of this SDG goals, and you find that Kerala is at the top. That's one thing. Kerala has been able to finance these SDG goals specifically because there is yet another mover that's taking very strong position in Kerala, that is nothing less than what's called a private investment. Kerala has been able to reorient its development policy in such a way that it could go for a very positive approach to private investment. So what I'm trying to say is that if you take the history of the 1980s, actually we had witnessed what we used to call, say, the first turnaround in Kerala. That is, this first turnaround, until that point, there was a long period of stagnation. But because of this first turnaround, which was provided or which was supported by the remittances, we were able to break that sort of a stagnation. But now, since 2016 onwards, you find that there is a considerable increase in capex, that is capital expenditure by the state. And you also find there is an increased investment taking place in MSMEs, promoted by both government and the private capital. So this the second turnaround that has been taking place at the moment is supported by both the government and the private capital. So what I'm trying to say is that the kind of economic miracle that you witness in Kerala at the moment is driven by, at one level, the strategic sort of what is called the sustainable development goals, and at another level, private investment, both at the local and the state level. So when I say local, what's more important is that, of course, Joy Elamon would be able to say more about that. The local self-government institutions and their involvement. If you take the history of Kerala for the first 40 years, that is 56 to 96, the development was almost concentrated, it's coming from above. But from 96 onwards, after introducing this decentralized planning, you find that development taking place from below. And that's specifically why that we were able to make much progress in terms of sustainable development goals. Because the sustainable development goals, achieving this, is not something that's taking place above. It's taking place across social sections, across various demographics. You take any of these demographics, the marginalized social sections, or the minorities, or any other, or aged population. Across these various demographics, we were in a position to introduce these sustainable development goals, and we are at the top at the moment.
So, no, when we look at the ranking of the achievement of SDG by the state, in terms of number one SDG, which is no poverty, Kerala is ranked 1. And in terms of health, SDG 3, Kerala is ranked 1. Education, SDG 4, number 1. But when it comes to SDG 5, gender equality, we are placed at the 3rd position. Kerala is very well known for its higher education among the women population, and we have the highest level of educated women in the state compared to other states. So why is it so that we are lagging behind in terms of the ranking in the SDG 3? Can you throw some light?
You mean gender equality?
Gender equality.
Yeah, that has its historical roots. First of all, basically, you need to know more about the history of what is called a social hierarchy in Kerala, and also the patriarchal norms that we have been reproducing in our day-to-day life. So it's a highly complicated sort of an issue. But I tell you frankly, from the government of Kerala, we are trying our level best to go for gender equality, not just in terms of allocation of more funds for gender-specific projects. It's not just confined to that, but in every sense of the term. I mean, in terms of school enrollment, or in terms of what is called making subsidies to women entrepreneurs, or in any sense, you find that the government is going for gender equality. It would obviously take some time, that's all, because this patriarchal values or social hierarchy, it's all got deeply rooted in the system. So it would take its own time. But I tell you frankly that, like any other SDG goals, we are much ahead, with respect to other states, so far ahead of other states. So there is nothing to be worried at the moment. And in terms of our kind of involvement in the what is called state development process, we are taking it as a serious issue. And we also try to improve what is called the women work participation rate, because that's also going to be very critical for the overall development process. So I'm almost sure that we will also go for a higher rank, even in terms of gender equality, sooner or later.
So when it comes to the employment opportunities in the state, now there is a general feeling that the employment opportunity in the state is less compared to the all India average. So the economic development point, from the economic development point of view, it is economists world over says that engaging more women, giving them opportunities for doing jobs, will reflect in the GDP. And the state has taken some steps to bring people in the unorganized sector, particularly women, to the organized sector through one such mission was the Kudumbashree mission. About 97 vocations that you have brought under that. And what is the contribution made by Kudumbashree in the state GDP?
Yeah,
Number one. I have one more question.
Yeah.
When we see that more women can engage in the employment process, so that they can economically independent and support their families. But the problem is the opportunities given to them. Say, for example, state of Tamil Nadu, Delhi, all these places, they have given free transport to women so that they can commute to their workplaces. I'm talking about bringing the unorganized labor force into the organized sector. So what kind of, why Kerala is not having such kind of social care measures for women so that to support them to come and take employment? So these are the two questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, before coming to the aspect of women, you were making a statement that, look, the employment opportunities in Kerala is less, which I would say is something which I don't want to support, basically, because that's a false narrative that has been created in Kerala. Because there's so much employment opportunities in Kerala. The only thing is that it is underemployment to a certain extent. That is, they are not getting full-time employment. That's all. And apart from that, and if you look at the PLFS data, you find that Kerala government has been able to, or Kerala economy has been able to generate not less than 7.5 lakh jobs per year. So it's not a small number, it's a big number, I would say. And apart from that, there is some sort of a default income that to each and every person or each and every household in Kerala, because 1 out of 4 households have got international global economy connections. So the thing is that a youth is not compelled to enter into the labor market. But apart from that, I tell you frankly that, look, we have so much literature from Raghuram Rajan and Lamba and Ashok Modi and others. They are all saying that it is true throughout India that we are not creating sufficient number of quality jobs. That's a fact. But I tell you frankly that in Kerala, we have been able to generate much more jobs than we expected to generate. So that's a false narrative about the first statement that I thought I would make a comment like that. Coming back to your original question, that this women, it's true that the women's labor force participation is less, and we need to improve this women's labor participation if at all you want to realize an increase in GSDP and like that. But at the same time, so many activities undertaken by the what is called Kudumbashree, and also the kind of welfare dimensions like care sector and like that, they all absorb more and more women workers. The point is that with respect to labor and employment, with the focus on women, what I would like to say is that Kerala's economy is increasingly being formalized in the sense that you get more income and you are also sure that there would be some element of social security with the kind of employment that you get, which you don't find in other states. So the economy is increasingly formalized. And even if you look at the government recruitments, of the total government recruitments taking place in India, not less than 50% is done in Kerala. I don't know whether you believe it. You take the case of PSC recruitments throughout India. Of the total PSC recruitments in India, 50 to 55% is taking place in Kerala. What does it mean? It means that whatever little jobs we create, It is created in the formal sector. It is being formalized. It's a very healthy sign. And as part of that, women workers also could get benefits. Of course, Tina might be able to say more about it. Yeah.
So which means that the youngsters who are sitting in the audience can be optimistic of getting employment within Kerala. So thanks for that. Then coming to our next panelist, Dr. Joy, who was instrumental in bringing out the policies for implementing the SDGs at state level when he was heading the KILA, Kerala Institute of Local Administration, which was the apex body of implementing the SDG goals through the local self-government groups at the panchayat level. Sir, my question is, when the SDG 17 goals were conceived at the national level, you have taken a different route in order to formulate some 9 themes based on which you have. And I could see the fact sheet, which was published in 2023, which has data from 2018, 19, and 20 for 3 years. But it was published in 2023. Maybe some progress might have made subsequent to that. But can you just tell us how the national priorities on the sustainable development goals have been incorporated into the 9 themes that the KILA has put forward for implementing in Kerala? That is question number 1. Question number 2 is, while implementing these schemes, you needed a lot of data. So what I found was that 2020 up to 2020, 18, 19, 23 years, data was compiled and published in the year 2023. By that time, actually, the world has moved further. But what was the delay in getting the data? What are the data challenges that you have? So these are the 2 questions that we would like you to answer for the audience.
So, good afternoon and thank you. Thank you for inviting me also, and good afternoon to all. First of all, I always get confused because every 10 years, every 5 years and all, you come up with new phrases, new words, and all kinds of things. And I think most of them remain the same for all practical purposes, but it also drives us forward. Definitely that I agree. But people had this Millennium Development Goals. And in fact, when we were doing by medical school, we had the Health for All by 2000. That was one of the first initiatives where this target-based approach was started. And then we were taught in Kerala that all those things, I'm talking about early 80s, and then we were taught that all those things which we are supposed to achieve by 2000, Kerala has already achieved in the 80s. In health, I'm saying. But then that has also brought in a lot of complacency among us. That we will take it up later. But when it came to SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals, I won't say that becomes the Bible and everything for us. It's only a framework which we can actually adapt. It is not we are going to have our development only through this SDG framework. No. The whole framework of having goals in development, which has targets based on indicators, that's how it is framed. And for our own situations, we can actually adapt it. And that is where SDG, I would find SDGs for Kerala is like that, not just about the numbers. 1. And we came in a little late, but whatever achievement which we have made, because we are supposed to be first, all those 4 years when SDG ranking was provided by the Niti Aayog, we have been maintaining this numero 1 position. Okay, but there are people behind us, just behind us. That's also there. We should also understand that. But then we came in late because we actually had this whole development agenda set up in the 1957, in the first Kerala government, onwards of the welfareist approach. And most of the factors which we are actually talking about SDGs now have all been in those directions. And so our own development agenda would continue, and then we see how it fits into SDG framework, how we can use the SDG framework. That is how we started approaching the SDG framework. And then what we did is, KILA basically, see, things happen at the ground level. Whatever you talk at the global level, finally this has to happen at the local level. Many of those things, whatever the development agenda which you say, but then when you go to the people, last time we talked about all those Millennium Development Goals 1, 2, 3, 4 and all, and this time I go with Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 17, and then all those indicators, then all those targets. People are not interested in that. If you ask about poverty, what they would say is that we want to be poverty free. If you are talking about education, we want good education. We are not going to say it is part of SDG 4, 3 kind of thing. Health. We want a healthy village, healthy city, healthy town. So what we try to do is that we try to do it in a local indicator framework at KILA. And then we developed dashboard, which can be used by the local governments. So then this question came, see, even when we at the district and the state levels and the national levels are not able to compile many of this data, how can it be done at the local level? But then our contention was that from where do you get this data at the district, state and national level? From where do you get? The data comes from the grassroots. It might not be in the way in which you want. Your definition is different, your indicator is different, but things happen at the local level, the information is available at the local level, and we need to take it into a data format. That's all. So we tried with a few panchayats as a pilots, and they came up with everything, most of the things, except for all those ratios and other things which cannot be calculated because of the denominator issue. For all those statisticians here, for example, you cannot talk about infant mortality rate at the local level because the denominator is 1000 live births and you have only 10 or 15 births in a year, and then that data becomes awkward, skewed. But we can also say that last year this many infant deaths happened, this many. So we need to adapt it to current situation. Anyway, the data is available locally, and so we developed the local indicator framework, and our challenges are different. When you are talking about we are first, all these 4 years, you all know that first doesn't mean anything. The second didn't come with you, or second person did not overtake you. First is not the end. There are things which you are yet to achieve. For example, even within those, for example, since you all have been writing exams, you know that even if you don't study the entire portion, still if there are choices, you manage to do. And if the other person is not up to your level, you still get first because you have achieved in some other sector. So, for example, even when we are in health sector, even when we have been first in the health sector, the thing is, within that, there are many indicators for which we have to move forward. For example, even in this audience, I would ask, the hemoglobin, how much is the hemoglobin? You know this 12 gram percent and other things. And if I ask many of you, you will finally find that 40% of you are not actually in Kerala are not having hemoglobin minimum 12 gram percent. But healthy, we are first. So this is the thing. So that is where we need to do. And so that is the case with education. That's the case with all those things. But in certain aspects, we are also down. For example, the sustainable consumption. We are far behind because of our own consumption patterns. So that's why we need to understand. But then what we did is that we actually considered all these 17 goals and took it into themes. So we are talking about poverty-free panchayats, which will have agriculture part of it, which will have the sustainability part of it, the nutrition part of it, the poverty, the hunger part of it. So 2 or 3 are clubbed together. So these goals are not separate in itself. They are all linked and interlinked. So departments have to come together. So we try to do it in that way. And then what happened is that the government of India took it up. So they actually developed it to thematic approach, spread it across the country, because the thematic approach becomes a little more easier for actually doing development planning. So thematic approach happened, And then they also tried to develop it to Panchayat Development Index. The Panchayats got into this ranking in terms of, not ranking, putting marks for each Panchayat that is available. And now they are actually talking about Panchayat Advancement PD, Advancement Index, that is what you have to achieve. But then the good thing is that we started in KILA and it has been taken up at the higher level, national level, and still we are supporting my colleague who was supposed to come, Ms. Suganya. He's still in the core committee of the national government on developing this further. But the thing is, it's also learning from Kerala, but we also learn from outside. And there I find, as I said, a long way to go. We should not be caught up in this goals and indicators and other things and the targets which are national level. But for us, it has to be beyond that. For example, the poverty thing. You know that the Nidhi Aayog actually published the extreme poverty index, multidimensional poverty index based on that. Do you know what is the percentage of poverty in Kerala? Anyone knows? It is 0.5%. It is 0.5%, less than 1. And we have states in India up to 42% poverty. Okay, so the thing is, that is the case. But then, do you think we have to get out of this poverty discussion and go out? No, this thing continues. This is about the absolute poverty. The relative poverty is where we need to talk. That is about development. So we need to go forward. That is the case with education. If you are actually talking about the indicators wise, if you are talking about education, the usual stuff, like for example, you say enrollment ratio. Gross enrollment ratio. In Kerala, if you are actually looking at that and planning, you are not going to plan anything because you have already achieved that. It's almost near 100 enrollment ratio. Or for example, this dropout ratio, dropout in school. If you look at Kerala, it's most of the places it is 0. So what do you do with education? We can actually stop engaging with education. No. But then we have other problems. If I ask you, what is the enrollment ratio for higher education after you +2, then we have to start thinking differently. Or even the dropout ratio in the higher education sector, then you have to think different. So for us, the challenges are little different. We need to move forward, and that is where we use this framework, and there we actually try to see it in a thematic approach where the linkages and interlinkages come together so that our development planning is focused. So I consider the SDG framework as the key. We adapt it to our situations, the indicators, whatever you call it, all those indicators can be adapted to our situation. Some of them can be deleted, it is redundant, irrelevant for us, but there are certain things which we have to add and there are certain things which we need to modify. This is how we can actually start. That's for the initial thing, I think.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Which you mean to say that we have fine-tuned the SDG goals much before the term SDG was used. Earlier, it was something called as Millennium Development Goals. 8 goals were there. From there, it got developed to 16. 17th goal is about partnership between the government and other stakeholders. Now, let us look at the business people who are on the panel. There is a usual belief that, business people are very selfish. Yes. But on the other hand, business is a legitimate way to serve the society. Indeed, all the products and services that they bring to us to satisfy our needs and requirements, yes, businesses do. We have Tina from the Muthoot group, the blue Muthoot. Okay, what does this blue represent? And the sustainability development goals implementation and the formulation we have heard from the government. Now let us see how the corporates are implementing it. They call this implementation of SDG is called as ESG, when it comes to the corporates. So we would like to hear from you the ESG practices that your company is following, and how what are the policies that your company has in order to integrate with the sustainable development goals. You can take one or two, because there are 16 of them, you need not, but one or two which are close to your heart, you can try to. She is also a chartered accountant, so therefore sustainability accounting reporting standards also have come as SAS 1 and 2. So please, the policies and the practices that you follow at the company level.
I'm just going to add to something that the two earlier speakers said. You know, when we talk about the 2030 agenda, we say 17 goals, 169 targets, 230 indicators for measuring progress. But there's one thing that we shouldn't forget behind all this. Behind all the sustainability development goals, we're talking about human lives. You know, there are, like, the sustainability development goals are anchored on 5 Ps, the first being people. So people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. Why are these goals given so much importance? It's because of it's inclusive, it's universal, and it intends to leave no one behind, beginning with the most vulnerable, and this is accepted by all the 193 countries of the UN. So when I'm talking about the Sustainability Development Goals, SDGs in particular, and the ESG framework, I want to talk about how we do our business. I know to many of you, Muthoot might be a familiar name, it's a household name, but not everyone knows what we do and why we exist. So our purpose is to transform the life of the common man by offering him simple, easy financial products, even at his doorstep. Why is this such a big deal? You know, when it comes to credit, if credit is not made available quickly, do you know what happens to a low or middle income family? They start dipping into what they have saved for their basic needs, or they start liquidating assets that they would have had to hold on for the long term. That's why it's crucial that they have access to quick and easy credit in a responsible manner. About 60% of our customers, they're new to credit. These are customers who banks would not lend to. They fall outside the traditional banking system. They don't have a credit score. I'm mentioning all this because just going back to the first SDG of no poverty, like the two speakers said, Kerala has made huge strides here. But it's not just what we see on the surface. When we talk about no poverty, it's about how can companies, us and other companies also, how can they enhance the social protection for the population? How can they give income support? At a time when somebody is not able to earn, what is the income protection that they have? An example would be insurance. And this is not something that, you know, somebody who's salaried or somebody who's earning millions needs to have. This is a basic need, a health insurance. A lot of families, when they don't have something like a health insurance, like I said, the same thing, they start dipping into their savings. 2 things happen if a breadwinner, say, gets sick or there's a medical emergency. He stops earning and his family starts borrowing and they might go into a debt crisis. All of this can be avoided. In the last year, this is just a simple product that we have, Muthoot Health Card. It's just a basic health insurance and you just have to spend a little less than 1,000 rupees as a premium. We settled 21 crores worth of claims to 7,000 families, 7,000 low-income families, of which 3,000 were in in Kerala. While that may seem like, 3,000 in Kerala, that's a handful of a number. But it also shows there's so much more awareness that needs to be created about something behind the intent behind such a product. Now, coming back to the other SDG goals, or maybe within the framework, one particular area that I want to talk about is on gender equality and the empowerment given to women. So what is it that companies can do to help women? You know, there's a statistic that says that if a woman rises to leadership, holds a leadership role, it's likely that other women are 3 times more influenced by her leadership position than if a male were in her same position. So a woman leader actually sets the path for others to follow. Now, something that, before I just mention what we do, I'm just giving a thought on, you know, a general practice that companies can do is to fast track the growth of women. I think something, I mean, like we had touched upon this topic. I think a large part of women's role in formal employment and all might have certain social ties. There's unpaid work that might not get recognized. All of that's there. But beyond all that, you know, one thing that companies can do is to fast track the growth of women. A lot of MNCs do it. We may not always have the framework or the understanding on how to go about it. This can be through mentoring, giving them the right kind of experience, training, skilling, whatever it is. But the faster you get them, you know, like maybe take 2 steps of the ladder instead of 1, it's going to have a ripple effect on those behind her. And I will not be able to complete the topic on women empowerment if I do not touch upon financial independence. A large part of women empowerment, I think, hinges on women being financially independent. We can talk about it, but we don't really see it in reality. You know, the most difficult thing, property is hardly passed down to women. They don't own land in their name. It's in the husband's name, the father's name, whatever. But how do we get women to start managing their own finances? How do we empower them? We can always take small steps. And that's something that we also do. How is it that, you know, like give them an understanding of their finances, how money comes in, how money goes out, expose them to simple financial products. Maybe like they can't understand equity, but maybe they can make a small investment in a mutual fund, or maybe they can start acquiring gold. And then as they build confidence in owning assets, they'll be empowered to acquire, save more, invest more, learn more through the entire process. It's not about like just getting them, you know, training them in things like cryptocurrency and all. That's not the point. When we're talking about masses, we're speaking about easy, simple products. So coming to what we do in Muthoot on this front, we have close to 50 million customers, of which 75% are women. Why? Because a large part of our customer base, and this is across the group, there are more than 34 million microfinance customers, micro entrepreneurs. And then across other products or other companies also, we have products that are exclusively catered to women with more convenient terms to help them acquire assets, make investments, say 2-wheeler loans, used car loans, acquire property. There are slightly more favorable terms for women to help them just start getting into managing their own finances. And what we've seen is that women are actually very good handling their own money, you know. So, and they're very responsible. Like delinquency rates among women customers are, I mean, it's quite low. So that's on the loan front, and even on our employment fund, on that front, on what we've done for women. So we have a women's cell that offers legal aid support for women. That has linkages with local hospitals for women's checkups, for cancer screening. We take sessions within, I mean, not for customers, I'm saying this is for our own workforce on financial assist, on financial planning, on mental, emotional, and physical well-being for women, because we must understand that, you know, a woman takes care of everyone in her family. But when it comes to her own health, like it's on the back burner, like it gets neglected unless someone really pushes them to do it. So these are all like initiatives that we've taken. Um, and one more, this is not specific to women. We have an in-house psychologist. Like SDG 3 is like the largest SDG with the multiple number of targets. But why? It goes beyond just talking about health or the absence of infirmity. Now we're talking about physical, mental, and social well-being. With the prevalence of so many suicides and depressions cases going around, we cannot neglect employee well-being in the workplace. So we have a psychologist available at any time for our entire staff. We promote a lot of our staff health initiatives. They have an in-house app, so we run initiatives for them, competitions on how far they've walked, like run campaigns on healthy living, everything like that. So because if we don't talk about it, then it gets neglected, and it's not just something a few people need to be aware of. So this is broadly what we do, but there are quite a few activities, and I wouldn't want to overshoot the time, so if there's anything specific, I'd be happy to talk on it.
Okay, because we have students who are waiting to enter the workforce. Maybe they will be joining companies like yours. So when the workforce, particularly the women, they have the dual role of working in the workplace and also take care of their families. So in case they have to stay back in the office for longer hours because we know that it is not a 9 to 5 kind of a thing. The extended hours they'll have to work, but they'll be worried about their children at home to take care of them. So what kind of a social care system that companies like yours can introduce so that they have a safety feeling that they can be 100% be in the workplace to deliver, because the clients could be, in your case, of course, they're in India. But when we talk about companies and particularly IT sector, which are serving the clients outside, sometimes because their timings are different. And these time zones when they have to work, what is the kind of social security measures that we can provide to those the women workforce so that more and more educated people, like Dr. Ravi was mentioning about underemployment, so that we can reduce the underemployment and we can bring more workforce. So please think about some solutions so that we can empower the woman in the true sense. Thank you.
I will tell you the most obvious thing that I've noticed. I have a 3-year-old son, so I know what it feels like. Why I'm saying this, till recently I was in Kerala and then I moved to Bangalore. And this is what I've observed. One reason that I felt like being in Bangalore, the difference was that there is actual care infrastructure for children there. Anywhere, I think parents can easily find like care infrastructure in most vicinities. It's not something that just runs for 2-3 hours. I'm not sure why it hasn't come up in Kerala. It's not that there is no requirement here. I think it's both sides. Like, women do want to work. They're not able to work because it's not there. And if this is there, they would be able to work. Like, I think and a lot of the setup that has been done outside the state, I mean, in states like maybe cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad and all, it's all set by private chains. So I suppose it's only a matter of time before those professional private chains do it here. I wouldn't encourage this to be done by someone who doesn't have an experience in childcare, because even if it is there, this is a matter of like safety, security. So if a woman has to work, has to spend her time in the workplace and be assured that the child is taken care of, then there has to be like proper child infrastructure in the state. So this has to be there like in just about every locality.
Good to hear that. When we are talking about ESG practices, of course, you were talking about the gender equality. I just want to know, because you're a financing company, fundamentally, giving loans for the people to buy vehicles, and you fund them. two questions. One is, do you have differential interest rates for those who are buying electric vehicles? Number two, again, to empower the women, is there any special scheme for girls and women?
The answer to both is yes. I'll tell you why on the first question, differential rates for electric vehicles. Electric vehicles is a small portfolio that we have because, I mean, we've been studying the market. Electric vehicles is slightly, it's still going through its ups and downs, even with like the latest news on certain OEMs. Preferential rates are there for electric vehicles also because we want to attract the kind of customers who want to invest in that electric vehicle right now. We cater to really like the tier 2, tier 3 markets. So there maybe the rates will be slightly higher because the delinquency rates are higher. But right now, the buyer of an electric vehicle is a conscious buyer. He will be buying that vehicle with the understanding of this is a sustainable investment. I want to do this for the environment. It's not just a rampant two-wheeler purchase that they're doing. So considering the profile of the customer, yes, there are definitely better rates for electric vehicle. On women's loans, yes, there are slightly more favorable terms. The credit profile, the credit score is slightly lower for women. The requirement for a guarantor may not be there. Certain waivers, maybe physical verification may not be there. It depends on the location, the scheme that they've adopted, maybe the model of the vehicle, but depending on multiple factors, there are certain criteria that are waived for women.
And also from the energy security point of view, you have so many branches across the country. Are you operating outside India also?
No, only in India.
So you have multiple branches operating. So from the energy security point of view, have you started using alternate energy sources for lighting and air conditioning your offices?
Well, our branches are spread across the country, so not specifically to our branches, but we do have a wind farm that doesn't cater in-house. That is for a 25 megawatt farm that's there in Tamil Nadu, but the electricity is sold to the government there. It's not for our consumption.
Thank you, Tina. I think there is an urgent need for Tina to leave to catch her flight. And the MC is reminding me of leaving her alone. So, okay, we can do the...
Thank you, everyone.
Apologies
honors.
to be the killjoy, but then
We'll
instructed
continue
to remind her. So to present a token of our appreciation to her before she leaves, can I bring on stage Dr. K. Muthoot, Joint Controller of Examinations? And gentlemen, may I also request you to join for a group photograph before she leaves so that we can get that done. The Future Green Summit memento is being presented to Ms. Tina Muthoot by Dr. K. Muthoot, Joint Controller of Examinations. And yes, all of you, please step up for a group. Sir, Muthoot, sir, please stay for a photo. Thank you. Thank you for that. And with the moderator's permission, I'd like Tina to take leave from the stage. Professor Sreekumar, please continue.
Yeah, so we were talking about gender equality. We have seen the practices that being followed in Muthoot. Now we have our dear Venkitraman Anand, who is a close associate of Jain University, working on various boards, particularly the leading companies like Harrison's Malayalam, the Murugappa Group, and Naspinwall, and currently on the board of also on the board of Kerala Minerals and Rutiles. He is very familiar with the Kerala atmosphere. I'm just asking, by putting forward to you a request to present your views, how we can improve the issues of gender equality at workplaces. Again, it is for the future workforce sitting in front of you. What actions they should take right from the school, college, and to the university level education to empower themselves so that they'll be able to navigate through the issues of gender inequality. Over to you.
Thank you, Sreekumar. I think the businesses, like Mr. Joy was also mentioning, business is not only private, so it's also public. So, you have government sector also. I think both the private and the public sector have realized in the last, 1.5, 2 decades, that if we do not, if we differentiate between male and female, we're going to lose talent. We may not get the right source of people. So that, I think, is slowly eroding. When what we do as organizations is that when a job description is made, earlier I remember when I started my career, people would say, "Sir, we can't take a lady, she won't come in time, or she will not be able to stay late." I think one is that, over the period of time in the last 40 years that I've been working, there has been a transition that has happened. We don't talk about that now. Job descriptions are made irrespective of the gender. We don't decide when we make the job description whether we're going to take a male or a female for this post. That's the first change that has happened. And there are many more companies which need to do that, I think, especially in the public sector, because there's not much of clarity on that. Private sectors also. I think first thing is that a job, is it going to be done? First is whether it's a male or female, what is the job and what does it require? That's the first prerequisite. Second, I do not know whether I am speaking on behalf of everybody, especially when so much of controversy is happening over 70 hours and I don't see my wife and whatnot. I personally believe, I have worked in Kerala for 11 years. I was heading Aspinwall and then Harrison. I shut my office at 6 p.m., come what may, and everybody leaves by 5:30. I think the role of each, the job of each role is meant to be 8 hours. And if we are overworking a person, then definitely he or she has to stay back. But are we giving them more work? Is it because of that? Or second is that, are they not good enough for that post? Are they taking more time than they do? That can happen with a male or a female. As a matter of fact, I was asked during my tenure in one of the companies about us. There were 2 ladies who were supposed to support me as executive assistants. And they asked me, whom do I want? There was one lady who would leave exactly at 5:30. The other would stay back. She had no problems in the sense that 7:30 also she would stay. So I preferred the one who left at 5:30. The reason, because we give her enough work that she finishes by 5:30 and she was quick enough to finish that. The other one was slow. It was not that she was given work more than 8 hours. Most of us give work which is for 8 hours. So I think that is the first change that we have to understand, that one, we should not differentiate between a work between a male and a female, which we don't do in most corporates now. Second, all work that is done is 8 hours. So the question of a female having to stay back does not really arise these days. It should not arise. If it's arising, there's a problem with the management. There's a problem with the process. So I would say that these 2 changes are very much necessary, and it's happening. Yes, there are organizations, because of pressure, they squeeze employees and they make them work more. But those employees, believe me, neither the employee is happy nor is the business happy. These businesses will not sustain over a period of time. And so these are the 2 things which I would like to say very clearly. As far as gender, again, another thing is that nowadays businesses or all careers are open to everybody, whether it's a male or a female. You find that every job there is a female working, and there is no disparity between a male or a female at all. So I think that itself gives the opportunities open, because earlier 15, 20 years back, there was this problem that people would say, no, I can't take a woman, and infrastructure was not as good. People couldn't travel. Now you have, the private taxis, you have public systems which are improving, but not to the level it should have improved in other countries. But we are, I think, definitely moving ahead. So infrastructure is improving, public transport is improving, people are more confident, women are more confident. And as a matter of fact, I would like to clarify here, in Harrison, Malayalam, basically it's a plantation company. 50% of the workforce are women, all the workers are women. And please remember, this is not that plantation, Harrison is only some odd company. In plantations, especially in southern India, I won't speak for northern, where I worked for quite some time. In southern India, that's an equal pay. We pay the woman and the male the same amount of wages. There's no disparity. So if a traditional industry can do that, why can't a modern industry do it? I think it's basically, you got to not succumb to the pressure. I would tell all women who are here that you have to be very clear with the management, saying that, this is my job. If I finished it, I should be able to go. And if need be, if the need arises, you have to say, their jobs are plenty. People say we don't get jobs. We say we don't get people. If I pick up the phone and speak to my HR now, she'll tell me, sir, I've not got people, send me resumes. So actually there is a gap. The gap is basically because I think the educational institutions, it's very good that such summits are happening, because it's very important for the academia, the businesses and the policymakers to be sitting together in one platform and discussing how to get things forward. So I think that's very nice that we have people from the planning board, we have people from the private sector and public sector. I think we all need to sit together and find out a solution for all this, and that is basically, according to me, where we need to work. And just to add one more thing, I think gender equality people are talking about, I think it all starts, like we say, charity begins at home. It all starts at home. And I think even at home, things have changed in the last few decades. I still remember even today, I don't mind telling that, when my wife was in the family way and I was in Bangalore in an assignment, and she was taken to the delivery room for the delivery, and we had a girl child, and we were very thrilled. But it so happened that my mother-in-law and father-in-law were dumb for 3 days. They didn't talk to anybody because, I didn't understand why, because, and we're very happy. My daughter's married, she's settled, she's doing extremely well. And in her career, as well as she manages a family. So I don't see any reason. But there was a mindset in families earlier. I think we need to start there. If we can start at home, creating a sense of equality between male and female kids right at the house, I don't see that organizations or businesses or any other place will have problems, So I think we should start working at home, and then everything will fall in place. And maybe even in schools, where equal, facilities should be given to the boys and girls to play in the same area, same platform, and compete against each other also if necessary. So that's my take on this. Thank you very much.
It was very nice of you, Venkat, and now our Kaushik, he is also very close associate of Jain University. Very interesting title of his company's name, that is Force Here Technologies, which that itself talks about, they are involved in some sort of AI as a common man when I look at. Having dual qualification in accounting, both chartered accountants and cost and management accounting, he has been working in the area of ESG and strategy transformations. There are two issues. One is government is facing a huge data. They don't have the up-to-date data available with them on real-time basis. I was just talking about the fact sheet of KILA, where they carry the publication in 2023 with data up to 20 only. 3 years. So how do we, similarly, I was talking to Dr. Ravi about the students who are leaving abroad from Kerala. We don't have exact data about this, how many students are leaving on an annual basis. We have a cumulative figure, it seems, but no annual basis, it's not there. So data innovation is one major challenge. Secondly, coming to the ESG, or another area of expertise, we have got so many frameworks. We have at least one dozen, starting from GRE, IR, CDP, and so on. In fact, Tina has just left. We could not ask her what is the framework that her company is following. So when you integrate the sustainable development goals into the performance declarations of in addition to the annual reports, when the companies do that, from the ESG perspective, which is the best framework? India has our own, as convergence with the IFRS we have in the AS in accounting standards. Similarly, we have come out with the BRSR. Okay, so can you just tell us from the sustainability point of view about the various frameworks and how BRSR has adopted any of these frameworks, and what is the origin and what is the story, and how the government of India through the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, they're trying to implement. They started for the first 1,000 companies in a phased manner, 250, 250, or a period of 4 years, 100 companies will have to do that. So we would like to have a view on, because a lot of youngsters who would like to work in that area. So from the point of view of these, integrating the sustainable development goals into the reporting frameworks. Thank you.
So thank you, first of all, to put me on the spot. Because data obviously is everyone's most favorite, let's say, word, as well as it's one of the areas, where you have multiple jargons, evolving over a period of time. One thing before I start, you mentioned that there are about 1 dozen frameworks. You will be appalled to know there are about 600 frameworks. And this is a published information, yeah? There are 600 frameworks available today when anybody speaks about, what ESG is actually all about. But even before we touch upon the framework, I'll probably spend a minute or so just to tell you what exactly ESG in the context of, what, let's say, corporates look at. Obviously, we have, let's say, experts over here. Before I came in to this particular podium, I came with a lot of vigor. I thought that, I'll disrupt the podium, challenging, every expert over here. But unfortunately, I just have to agree with whatever they have actually said. So I have nothing much to actually counter to, whatever they have actually mentioned. I mean, be it when he spoke about, let's say, the SDG conversation, saying that should we align with SDGs, the answer is no, because somebody has actually prescribed it. Why should India adopt it? It's a very, very, very pertinent question. Similarly, I think when he actually mentioned about the fact that there are 70 hours, there is a disparity between let's say male as well as female co-workers. Absolutely no. Today, when we recruit somebody, we don't really look at whether it's a male or a female. That's not how things work. Unless, of course, let's say there are some tasks which is physically very laborious, right? I mean, there we will have to accept, we will have to admit that let's say a man's physical strength is going to be a tad better, and obviously that's going to be a differentiation point when it comes to recruiting in that particular phase. Anyways, coming to, let's say, the question that sir is actually, put forth. There are, I think, about 5 or 6 questions in your question. I'll probably try to dissect, as much as I'm able to, given the time constraint that we have. Now, one thing all of you need to understand, because the audience over here predominantly is the student community, right? Now, you need to understand, first of all, what ESG is in the context of, what, let's say, corporates look at. Now, ESG, very pertinently today, we keep evolving. Humankind, mankind, always keeps evolving, right? ESG, as you rightly mentioned, again, it is one of the latest jargons that everybody is speaking about. The onus today is on enterprises or organizations to prove that, they are making profits, but not at the cost of, negatively impacting the planet, not at the cost of negatively impacting the people side of things, yeah? So very simply put, from a jargonish point of view, this is what we call as, let's say, the environment. And then this is what we call from the social consciousness point of view. So ESG is basically environment, social governance. Organizations will have to report on their practices, how every decision that they take is positively or negatively impacting their scheme of things, and how is that it is affecting internally, and how is it that affecting externally. Traditionally, all of us, we only know how, let's say, financial reporting takes place, right? Financial reporting, very simple, right? I mean, you're all, I would assume, some of you are commerce students, so when you look at, let's say, financial reporting, you talk about P&L, you talk about balance sheet. It's a 200-year-old mantra where debit what comes in, credit what goes out. You have all those frameworks adopted and keep reporting. Now today, every company, when they report their financial reporting, there is a certain standardization. So when we talk about framework from an ESG point of view, what we mention is nothing but a framework, a sort of a standardization. Like if you have a company A and company B, now if both of them have started reporting, let's say, their ESG practices, you need to have a certain metrics, you need to have a certain measure to see that how is it standard, and how is it that it is not an apple to, let's say, an orange comparison, right? So that is where frameworks actually come into the picture. Now, what has happened is, when you look at, let's say, frameworks like GRI is actually one of the global body. Again, they're actually headquartered in Netherlands, Europe. They have been working very closely with United Nations, one of the OGs of how, let's say, ESG reporting is supposed to take place. Yeah. Now, GRI very clearly comes out with, what, let's say, your global standards are, or what we call from a GRI language as the universal standards, your sector standards, and your topic standards. So for every sector today, there is a reporting framework which is actually available. The onus is actually on the organization to ensure that they get the right kind of consulting. If they don't understand ESG, they need to go to, let's say, companies who understand this, or probably familiarize their people saying what ESG is all about, because it is becoming very jargonish, because everybody wants to, let's say, adopt a ESG reporting, but nobody really knows how do you go about it. And even if they know what needs to be done, framework is probably one of the key problems. If you are overcoming, let's say, which framework you're supposed to resort to or adopt, the next problem that he has actually posed as a question is data. There is a big nexus, when it comes to ESG as well as data. There is no ESG journey unless and until there is data. And today there are two scenarios. In fact, last evening when I met Sir, we also had a very brief chat around this, saying that there are two scenarios today, right? Where you have data, and on the other side, you don't have data. Now, let me cover the first scenario where you have data. Now, the moment you have data, it's pretty simple. Today, imagine a situation, what you need to do with data. From an ESG point of view, there are metrics, right? How your energy consumption is happening, how your carbon credits need to be calculated, how your waste management needs to be done, how water conservation is actually done in your organization. So these are all data points. Most of the organizations today are not even capturing this data. I'm speaking from a private sector point of view, yeah? So please don't hold me saying that. That is not the truth. So this is exactly what we are actually facing a problem with. So the first step that you see at a micro level today is, there is data, you ensure the data is rightly pontificated, you then automate the data in a certain way where the manual intervention is very minimal. Where, let's say, the data pipelines using algorithms, using, let's say, predictive analytics, are continuously ensuring the data keeps flowing to your ESG platforms or to the dashboards that he was actually speaking about. Now, this is very simple, right? I mean, whatever I mentioned, but it is not, because, not all data actually exists today. That is exactly where, let's say you have situations like predictive analytics coming into the picture. If you don't have data, you have simulations, you have IoT-based sensors, you have, let's say, statistical models, for comparative purposes. Like today, for example, if there is an earthquake-prone zone, but we know, for example, let's say in a place like, let's say Bangalore, there has been never an earthquake, for example, right? How do you predict, or how do you come out with a probability saying that whether Bangalore is prone for it or not? We take a similar model, we take a similar data, a similar place, a similar, let's say, seismic zone, and try to compare and try to extrapolate and exponentially see whether the occurrence is going to be X, Y, or Z. That is one way of actually doing it. There are multiple ways to do it. And today you're living in an age of social media. Even if you don't have data, there is a crowdsourced data. There is data, where your citizens are actually reporting. Everybody today is actually on social media today, right? There is a lot of data which is available on X. There is a lot of data available on Instagram. There's a lot of data available on Facebook. So for somebody to actually capture that particular data, try to sensitize it, try to have a synthetic view to things, and have a simulation of sorts. That is the easiest way to actually go about, how do you come out with, let's say, some probability matrices in terms of, or in a scenario where, there is no data at all. I hope I've answered most of your questions, because I've kind of actually
So thank you very much for that. Data is the biggest challenge today. If you have the right type of data, yes, we can drive the perfect solutions for the problems that we are looking at.
so if you don't have data, please come to us. That's when we get business.
You generate the data. Maybe government requires more support in order to
Absolutely.
get the data on the real-time basis.
Absolutely.
Now, for the paucity of time, can we take a few questions from the audience? Yes, now the floor is open. Please feel free to ask the questions. Just tell your name and
Please
also
wake up. Lunchtime is over.
Yeah, there is a hand there.
Just
Hi.
a second. Can we switch off some of these lights when the Q&A session is on so that the speakers can see the audience better? Thank you.
Hi everyone. It was really great to listen to this panel discussion. My name is Aishwarya, and I was listening to how much all of you were talking about gender equality, and first of all, I'm so glad to listen to that. My question is, I'm working in Ernst and Young, so even today in many of the companies for women, they don't have, even when we say about gender equality and everything, they don't have much of, let's say for example a cab facility. There are companies that, let's say, they don't have a cab facility back home or for women. So how are we going to tackle all that? I have friends who are working in companies where they would tell to me that, okay, we don't have a cab back home, so for men it's safe. Still, that's the concept, right? For men it's safe to travel back after work late evening, but we don't have a cab back home, so we feel it unsafe. I think there are still companies like that, maybe in Kerala.
I think Venkat can answer that question.
Yeah, I think at the outset, Aishwarya, you should see, these are basically, each company has their own policies, right? But you should demand for it if you think that is required. That is how it works. You should speak to your HR saying that this is becoming the difficulty.
We do have, sir, but I was just talking about.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, what I realized, I was mentoring a lady when I was in the panel of IWN, a part of CII. She told me, I feel scared to talk to my boss. And she also told me, because she was very, I was mentoring her, she said, I start crying when I speak to him. I said, why? I said, you're not going to eat you up. He says, if he tells me something rude, then I feel bad about it. I said, but you're working. You're being paid for what your services are given. You're not doing a favor to the company. Please remember that. I think at the end of the day, the moment you women understand that you are working for an organization, you can demand anything. I think that is the day when we will be liberated out of all these problems. And last but not the least, gender equality does not work only with the business. Okay, gender equality also requires a lot of policy changes. I'll tell you, 20 years back, women were not allowed to work in factories. Okay, like what Kaushik was saying, it was not that they can't work. It was like the laws didn't permit, the Factory Act didn't permit. Slowly, these changes have happened, when women have started coming in. So it's, as I mentioned during my talk, that it's a decision which has to be taken by the business, the academia, and the policymakers. Only when all three of them combine together and make relevant changes will we reach the ultimate goal of gender equality. Otherwise, it will still be unequal at various stages. We need to demand for it. And that is my take.
Yes, sir, I think it's true, because even the individuals has a responsibility, right? There would be a lot of women who would not come in front and they would demand for it. So I think they also need to take a step front and talk about all these rights. Yeah. True,
If you're
sir.
talking about equality, you should be equally bold enough to go and ask
Yes,
something.
yes, sir. Very true. Very true.
Nothing comes with free of cost.
True. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, that was indeed an insight into what you need to do. MC is reminding me that we can take only one more question. So we can have one more question. Anybody? Thank you. Thank you very much, esteemed panelists. All of you have accepted our invitation and came on time. And thank you for delivering your views. We have seen both sides. Two pillars, one is government and another is the business. And I hope that this discussion will not end today. It will take it to the classrooms and into the future. As the name summits, as the name, the summit of the future, we'll continue our discussions in the future days to come. So thank you very much for your involvement and participating in this session. Thank you.